Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Hooked on Sports on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasting streaming services. My name is John Flynn, and thank you so very much for listening to the podcast once again on this Thursday. So we have 13 games for you on tap for week number 8 of the National Football League. So 6 teams are on bye: the Arizona Cardinals, the LA Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, the Raiders, the Detroit Lions coming off that impressive Monday night win against Tampa, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars are the sixth and final team that are on the off. There are a couple of games that I think are going to be really interesting as during on Sunday that I think deserve more attention and focus on detail here. We'll be getting into the Dallas Cowboys and the Denver Broncos, and then I'm also going to talk in length about the formula the Pittsburgh Steelers need to follow in order to defeat Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers coming up on Sunday Night Football. That game will be on NBC. So we have a couple of two terrific games that I want to talk about in that. But before we continue, make sure you follow and subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. This podcast is on social medias at hooked underscore on sports for Twitter, formerly known as X, and Instagram. And then also you can follow me on Twitter at jflizzy and on Instagram um, it's at Twitter at JohnFlynn97, excuse me, and on Instagram at JFlizzy. So into the Cowboys and the Broncos in just a second, but I'm really fascinated to see what's going to transpire on Sunday night when Aaron Rodgers faces the Green Bay Packers for the first time in his NFL career, because these are two teams that lead their respective divisions. The Steelers are first place in the AFC North with a record of 4-2. The Green Bay Packers are 4-1 on the season. So I think it's gonna be a fun game. A Sunday night, two historic franchises, a rematch from the Super Bowl 15 years ago when the Packers beat the Steelers. And I find some really important keys here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now I think I think the most obvious for the Steelers is that the defensive intensity and effort has to be much better than what it was last week against Cincinnati, because Joe Flacco in his 40s tore to shreds that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and it was an unexpected result for the Steelers and the Bengals. It would have been the opportunity for the Steelers to really set their sights on the playoffs with the win and get to a 3.5 game lead over everyone else in that division. So given how it's gone so far, but I think so. You have to look at the defense. They can't be giving up 33 points a game, like they did against Cincinnati. And believe it or not, the Steelers have given up 30 more points 3 times already this season, which is quite uncharacteristic of a Mike Tomlin coach team. So that's one obvious key here for the Steelers. The second thing is offensively. I think whichever team continues to convert on third downs better and is more effective is going to win the ball game. The Green Bay Packers come in as with the best third down conversion rate in the NFL, at around 48%. The Steelers are not that far behind, at 45%. They rank fifth in the NFL in that stat. And I think especially for Pittsburgh, so that on third downs with less than 3 yards to go, so they've converted on 17 of 22 situations on third down and with a to go distance of 3 yards or less. That 77% conversion rate is the best in the NFL. While defensively, the Packers are allowing 68% conversion rate on third down and 3 yards to go or less. The Steelers are ought to be imposing a sense of physicality on this game. So with the offensive line, so what does that mean? Making sure Jalen Warren gets 20 to 25 touches on Sunday night. That also means Aaron Rodgers continues plays a clean game. The two interceptions he threw against Cincinnati, what I viewed was the plays that kept the Bengals in the game and gave them believability in their pursuit of victory. So the Steelers have to go back to controlling the clock and controlling the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively over there. And then when it comes to the Green Bay Packers, to me, the Packers have not played an impressive a statement type of game since the first 2 weeks of the season, where they had two impressive victories in a 5-day span at Lambeau Field in early September. So they lost to the Browns. They tied the game against the Cowboys that they should have lost. So the Packers beat Flacco in a game where Flacco was just learning the offense, and it was time to move on from Jake Browning. And then they could have lost to Arizona. And I mean, I correctly picked the Cardinals to cover the spread of 7. I think it was like 7 points there. So the Green Bay Packers have not covered a spread in 6 weeks. So they need to come out with an intensity that they need. And what does that mean to me? So making sure Jordan Love protects the football and doesn't make and plays mistake-free football. So you need to have another big game from Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs has had multiple touchdown runs in each of his last 3 games. So this is a game where the Packers are going to have to balance the playbook here in order to keep Pittsburgh off balance. And the Packers they had a large report of limited participants in practice this week. So another thing for the Packers is to get their bodies right, in preparation for this game. So I'm looking forward to those simple keys here for these teams when they go up against each other on Sunday night. And I also think this is a huge game for the Dallas Cowboys. A huge week for the Cowboys because they're going up to Denver to take on the Broncos. The thing I am really the thing that I'll be looking at for the most is the play of Dak Prescott against this defense. And Dak Prescott has played at an MVP caliber level all season long. He's putting up a lot of gaudy statistics, but we are going to find out on Sunday if the Dak for MVP conversation is real or whether he was just a merchant of a weak schedule, playing teams like the Giants, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Commanders in for the last 6 weeks. So and the thing with Dak is he has always been a solid quarterback. He's in that 8 to 13, 9 to 14 range. in terms of ranking the quarterbacks in the NFL. So this is Dak's opportunity to really hone in on that, and make the MVP case, is a more make the MVP case more compelling for him, because this is the part of the season where the Cowboys' schedule is going to get difficult. They have games against. They have games in November against the Cardinals, which is not easy despite their record. They're better than their record indicates. They have a game against the Eagles. They have the Thanksgiving game against Kansas City. They still have to play the Lions. They still have to play the Vikings. They still have to play the Chargers. So it's definitely not not a cakewalk of a schedule. So to me, if I'm the Cowboys, this is put up or shut up time, for this, because look, the Cowboys still have a realistic shot and a hope of making the playoffs in the NFC with their record. So we're gonna find out there, and I think similar to what I think the Steelers need to do. The Cowboys need to get the be able to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and try and work out Pat Surtain a little bit with that. And then, of course, the offensive line is going to have a fun matchup in terms of Dallas's rushing offense, which has actually been pretty solid. Javonte Williams is having a terrific season so far against the Denver rush defense that's allowed just 93 yards per game so far this season. So something is going to give there between the teams. And then what about the Broncos? And the Broncos yeah, they had that incredible fourth quarter, that incredible comeback against the Giants. But I still want to see the Broncos play a commanding game from start to finish. Something they really haven't done. So yeah, yet this season, given the competition that they've been up against. So, yeah, and so I want to see Bo Nix play at a more consistent level, not be the quarterback that was completely shut down the first three quarters of the ball game against the Giants last week. Much rather see Bo Nix be able to use his legs and make plays himself, in addition to incorporating Cortland Sutton and R.J. Harvey, and J.K. Dobbins and Evan Ingram and others into the game. So. And I really think that the key here is, again, third down defense, and the Cowboys have the worst third down defense in the league in terms of conversion, while the Broncos have been number one in the league. But I will be honest with you, I thought Denver got exposed a little bit defensively, and I also think a big key is that Dre Greenlaw is going to be that is suspended and won't be able to go on Sunday because of the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty where he where he was yelling at an official on that. So I'm really looking at Denver about that. So we'll see if that lack of if that one less weapon on the pass rush is going to be enough to doom Denver in terms of trying to get home and trying to sack Dak Prescott. And we're gonna see a lot about that. But we'll also want to see defensively for Dallas, if they turn the corner a little bit, following the first 6 weeks of the season, which have been bad. But I thought Dallas played their best game of the season defensively against the Commanders on Sunday. I mean, it didn't help that Jaden Daniels got hurt in that game, and Jaden Daniels won't be able to go for Washington's game against Kansas City coming up on Monday night. But Deron Bland came out with an interception return for a touchdown, and could the Cowboys have a bad defense and not a horrible defense? Could that be just enough for them to win some games, which could be the difference between them making the playoffs and not making the playoffs? I think that's going to be remain to be seen, but I don't think there's anybody that's under more pressure in this game on Sunday than Dak Prescott. So with that in mind, we will get into the games for Week 8 in the NFL. So as you can see to my right, the right of your screen, if you're watching this on YouTube. So here are the spreads for the week, and this is going to be a terrific, a very interesting slate of games to me. A lot of huge spreads. So, but of course, a couple of great games coming up in the later part of the schedule on Sunday. So. I honestly thought I was gonna that I did worse than I did against the spread last week, but 8-7 is still respectable. I really want to try and get this record over 500 for the season. I am 51-57 against the spread. I'm coming off two winning weeks in a row against the spread, and then straight up I went 11-4, and so for the season I am 70-37-1. So which if we do the math right now, so with that, so my winning um yeah, my winning percentage is still a low is around 65%, which is like some which is like kind of where I want to hit for when it's all said and done here. So without any further ado, let's get to my picks. So we're going to start with the Chargers and the Vikings. They go off tonight on Amazon Prime to kick off week number 8. The Chargers are favored by 3.5 points, taking on the Minnesota Vikings. And look, the Chargers got totally outplayed in all three phases by Indianapolis on Sunday. But I think they're going to bounce back here. JJ McCarthy is still not back from injury. Their defense Minnesota defensively played a bad game against Philadelphia. They allowed Jalen Hurts to have a perfect 158.3 passer rating against them on Sunday. And now on a short week, the Vikings with a backup quarterback have to travel out west to take on a Jim Harbaugh coach team. I just think in these types of situations, I have to take the team that's played better right now, and I'll take the Chargers to win this game and cover. The 3.5 scares me a little bit, but I think this is going to be a 4-point game, so I'm going to take the Chargers to win by a score of 24-20. So I'm holding my breath on that one. Now, on to the games on Sunday. So we start with the Atlanta Falcons, favored by 7.5 points, taking on the Dolphins. I love the Falcons here. I think the Falcons bounce back after that woeful performance against the 49ers on Sunday night. I think it's going to be a big game. Big games from Bijan, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts against this woeful Miami Dolphins front. And it's just going to be a matter of time when Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are let go. Oh, and by the way, the Dolphins have a short week coming up next week, and they're going to have to face Lamar Jackson, who returned to practice on Wednesday against Baltimore. So give me the Falcons to win this game. I have them winning right now by a score of 21-10 over the Miami Dolphins. The Baltimore Ravens are 6.5-point favorites at home, taking on the Chicago Bears. And look, this was kind of harder for me to pick than I realized because the Bears have have forced 15 turnovers in the last 4 games, but winning the turnover battle by big margins is how the Bears have won all their games so far. They had 4 turnovers on last week against the Saints. They had three on Monday night against Washington. So, but with Lamar there, it's going to be hard for the Bears to have a cakewalk in this one, because Lamar doesn't turn the ball over often. But I think with this in mind, I'm going to take the Ravens to win. But with all the defensive injuries, I'm going to grab the 6.5 points with the Bears. So give me and only 4, and also the Ravens are trying to become just the 5th team in NFL history to make the playoffs after a 1-5 start. I know the Commanders, the Washington football team did it in 2020. And then the Indianapolis Colts also did it in 2018. So in the end, give me the Bears with the points, but I think it's going to be the Ravens going to win this one by a score of 27-26. We got the Buffalo Bills and the Carolina Panthers going at it with the Bills favored by 7 points. And I actually think this is going to be a high scoring game because Buffalo's defense has not been great, and yeah, Buffalo's coming off a bye week, but with that in mind, I think the Bills are going to be ready to go. They're well rested. I think Josh Allen is going to run for a touchdown. I think he's going to throw for 300 yards and a touchdown in this one. I just don't. I just think the Panthers had the fortune of playing the Jets last week. So I think they come back down to earth a little bit. I think they suffer their first home loss of the season. So give me the Bills to win this one. I think it's going to be a good one, 34-24 over the Carolina Panthers. We got the Cincinnati Bengals. They're at home, favored by 6.5 points, taking on the Jets. And if you thought this would be a game or a game this season where it would be Justin Fields against Joe Burrow, but that's not the case. I'm taking it's Joe Flacco against Tyrod Taylor, who might not even go this week because of a knee injury, meaning that Justin Fields could be back in there. So we're gonna see how that transpires, but. In the meantime, give me the Bengals to win this game. That they improved to 4-4. With them winning by a score of 27-17 over the Jets on Sunday. This next game to me was the single toughest game of the week for me to pick. The Houston Texans, they're at home. They're favored by 1.5 points, taking on Kyle Shanahan and whoever the quarterback is for the San Francisco 49ers. And look, Houston has given up just 88 points in their 6 games this season, which is good enough for less than 15 points a game. But they only have 2 wins this season and 4 losses to show for it. And the Niners are banged up with injuries on both sides of the football, they still don't know who the quarterback is going to be for this upcoming Sunday. But I mean, and as impressive as it was for the 49ers to beating the Falcons with so many interchangeable parts in that defense, I think it's Houston's defense that slows down the 49ers in this one. I think the Texans have one of the best defenses in football. I think it's going to continue this way. I think Derek Stingley is going to ball out. He's got favorable matchups there. And I think defensively, I think the linebacker play is going to be excellent as well, led by Will Anderson, who had a fumble recovery touchdown in the loss against Seattle last week. But nonetheless, I don't like this spot for the Niners. So give me the Texans to win and cover. They win by a score of 24-21. The New England Patriots, they're at home favored by 7, taking on the Cleveland Browns. Now, this is going to be the toughest task for for Drake May in terms of matchups this season, because the Browns have a superb defense led by Myles Garrett and Mason Graham, disrupting the pass rush and the run game respectively. But I just think the Patriots have the better coaching in this one. So I'm gonna pick the Patriots to win. But I think the Browns are gonna be in it. 21-17 is my final score for the game on Sunday. Or with that. Now, the next game on the list, you got the Eagles taking on the Giants again. The Eagles are 7.5-point favorites. This was the toughest to pick against the spread this week, because I feel like this is going to be a 7 to 10 point victory for the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles got the ship righted offensively, with Jalen Hurts having a great game against a good Vikings defense. They got AJ Brown the ball. They got Devontae Smith the ball. The running game is still a little suspect there, because Saquon Barkley only had 45 yards rushing. But I think the Eagles are gonna have some matchups in this game. I think Saquon Barkley is gonna be able to have a good game in this one. And I think the Giants, with the injuries they suffered on defense, with how different that the dynamic of that game was after the departure of Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland from injuries, it does not look it does not look like, from my vantage point, that Paulson Adebo is gonna be able to go for the Giants coming up on Sunday. That'll remain to be seen. So we're gonna see so how that transpires. So Paulson Adebo nor Brian Burns participated in practice alongside Javon Holland. So that's three key starters on defense that weren't able to go because of injuries they suffered against Denver. I just think the Eagles have too many matchups in this game. I think the Eagles even up the score with the Giants this season. The Eagles improved to 6-2, and I have them winning by a score of 34-24 over the Giants. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're 4.5-point favorites on the road in New Orleans, taking on the Saints. Now, this is actually a more interesting game than I thought. In this one, because because it's a division game. Neither team likes each other. But I think this feels like a bounce back performance for Tampa. New Orleans has fallen back down to earth a little bit after the win against the Giants. They failed to win or cover in the last 2 weeks against New England and Chicago, respectively. Both teams are in better competition than the Giants, but I don't think I don't think the Bucks are only scoring one, are going to score more than a touch, or score less than one touchdown in this one. I just think you have Baker Mayfield against Spencer Rattler. That is a big quarterback advantage for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, Emeka Egbuka was able to play last week. I think he's going to have a good game. I got the Bucks winning this game by a score of 26-16 over the New Orleans Saints. The Denver Broncos, they are 3.5-point favorites at home, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. And I actually do like Dallas winning in this game, because I think the thing is, Denver has only played 2 good quarters of football over the last 3 games. Again, in their 3 wins in the month of October. I very much question the consistency of Bo Nix and this Denver offense, and I think the Cowboys might be able to be good enough defensively to win this game. So I'm going to pick the Cowboys in an upset, 27-24 over the Broncos. The Indianapolis Colts, they're at home, favored by 14 points, taking on the Tennessee Titans. Now, this is such a this also is kind of a tricky game to pick, because the Colts, I think, are no one's played better through 7 weeks this season than the Indianapolis Colts. They keep scoring points at a high level, while Tennessee just doesn't have anything going on right now. And had it not been for that fluke win against the Cardinals, we'd be sitting here looking at the Titans as being the worst team in football. More eyeballs would be on that, but the Titans just don't have anything going offensively, nor defensively for that matter. Give me the Colts to romp the Titans. I have them winning by a score of 28-9 coming up on Sunday in Indy. Now, Sunday Night Football on NBC, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Green Bay Packers at home. The Packers are favored by 3 points in this game. And look, I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers to win the game. I know how well coached the Packers are. They are well coached on both sides of the ball. But I think the Aaron Rodgers story, I think, is going to play center stage. And Aaron Rodgers takes things personally, and he wants to play like that whenever he's insulted by that. He's done that so many times throughout his career. I think he takes down the Packers on Sunday. It's going to be a fun game, back and forth type of game, but I think the Steelers are going to win the game by a score of 24-20 coming up on Sunday night. And then finally, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are favored by 12.5 points, taking on the Washington Commanders, playing without Jaden Daniels. Earlier in the week, the spread was 10 points. Now the spread is 12.5 with the absence of Jaden Daniels. And 12.5 is a big number, but I'm going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game and cover the spread. So I just think Daniels not being there, their most essential quality on offense, and I just don't think it's going to be anything's gonna go right here. The Chiefs are humming. They're playing. They're starting to gel, playing together. Rashee Rice coming back has been back. He caught a couple of touchdowns. I think he caught 3 touchdowns in his return. I expect a similar game from Rashee Rice. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs to win and cover. Win by a score of 35-16 coming up on Monday night at Arrowhead. So with that, that's going to do it for this edition of Hooked on Sports. Thank you so very much for listening or watching to today's podcast. And until next time, whenever that may be, my name is John Flynn saying so long. I'll be back here on the podcast next week. Have a good weekend, everybody. Stay safe, and so long, everybody. Take care.